Hey everybody, Attorney Somm here. Welcome back. One of my viewers recently requested that I make a video discussing how wines change with age and buying strategies for aged wines. So in this video, I'm tackling those subjects. At a high level, when wines are young, they tend to be more fresh and fruity. The descriptors for this stage of a wine's evolution are often characterized as primary. For red wines, these primary descriptors often include red, blue, and/or black fruit. For white wines, they could include flavors and aromas such as lemon, lime, apple, pear, various flowers, or perhaps grassiness or herbaceous qualities. In addition, when wines are young, you may also experience what's known as secondary characteristics. For example, you could experience characteristics associated with oak aging, such as flavors and aromas of oak itself, or smoke, or spices such as cloves, vanilla, coconut, or dill. These are all descriptors that are imparted due to oak influence during the aging process. For white wines, you may also be able to detect characteristics from malolactic fermentation, such as the buttery aromas and flavors that you can get with certain Chardonnay. And you can also get yogurt or yeasty notes from lees aging for certain types of white wines. I should point out, however, that the vast majority of wines are meant to be consumed young. It's only a select few wines that should be aged. So certainly wines such as dry rosé, fresh vibrant Sauvignon Blanc, or anything with a screw cap are examples of things that should be consumed when they're young and which would only become more disappointing with age. So which wines should you age? Well, examples include Bordeaux, Burgundy, both white and red, Barolo, Barbaresco, Priorat and Rioja from Spain, Riesling from Germany, Austria, or Alsace, France, certain Northern Rhone Syrah, and also top examples of red wines from California and Australia. This list is non-limiting, of course, and not meant to be exhaustive, but it will give you a good idea of the types of wines that are capable of extended bottle aging. So what happens to these wines as they age? Well, for one, the primary fruit begins to fade and often becomes more like a dried fruit. In addition, the secondary characteristics from oak aging and/or malolactic fermentation become less prominent. The tannins, which can often be grippy when a red wine is young, for example, will also soften and the wine will become more elegant. And then you'll also start to be able to detect what's known as tertiary characteristics. These are some of the more complex descriptors that can arise with age. For a red wine, examples include leather, tobacco, forest floor, wet leaves, and for one of my favorite wines, Syrah, you also get some pretty incredible meat or gamey notes that can come up that can be pretty intriguing. With white wines, such as Riesling, of course, you could get petrol aromas. Other common descriptors for white wines with extended aging could include honey, caramel, hazelnut, and/or almond. With appropriate climate-controlled aging of a wine that's built for the long term, you could end up with a wine that's far more complex due to the presence of these additional tertiary characteristics. In many instances, these descriptors could be particularly intriguing and memorable. If you take a top example of Côte Rôtie, such as Guigal's La Moline, or La Turque or La Landon, for example, and you have 25 or 30 years of age on it, you can get a wine that is absolutely incredibly complex. The wine will take on a body and an elegance that's comparable to that of a red Burgundy, but you get a wide variety of very intriguing complex descriptors. You'll of course have a variety of fruit aromatics that are mostly dried fruit in nature, but then you can get flavors and aromatics that include white pepper, black pepper, game, smoked meat, sometimes even pepperoni pizza, possibly even a little bit of funk on it. When it's young, however, this wine will be mostly primary fruit with some prominent tannins and definitely some oak characteristics. While it's still a nice wine, it's nowhere near its full potential. And for that reason, many experienced wine enthusiasts will often be critical of those who drink some of these wines that are designed for long-term aging when those wines are young. The simple truth of the matter is that these wines are meant for long-term aging and they offer a much better experience with additional age, and so it's a shame to drink them when they're too young. While I've only been speaking about red and white wines so far, I also age champagne. My general approach is to age vintage champagne and to enjoy non-vintage champagne when it was young, although I do tend to age my Cru Grand Cuvée for at least a few years, sometimes even longer. Of course, it should be noted that champagne is typically well aged on release, and the champagne houses will definitely tell you that champagne is ready to be enjoyed on release, and that's definitely true. And for those who appreciate the freshness and effervescence of champagne on release, then you should absolutely continue to enjoy it then. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out champagne such as Salon and Dom Perignon is capable of aging exceptionally well for decades, and it can become truly mind-blowing. I'm going to read you an example of tasting notes from one of my Instagram posts that was from one of the 1976 Dom Perignons that I've enjoyed. I should mention that this 1976 Dom Perignon has been responsible for at least 3 of my top all-time champagne experiences. There have been some misses as well. And so with these older wines, you sometimes get some highs and lows, but when they're on, there's nothing quite like it. So the description reads as follows: deep caramel apples, baked pear, honey roasted almonds, and dried red apple skin coated the tongue. Rich honeyed spices, funnel cake, toasted brioche, sweet dried herbs, yellow field flowers, and densely powered limestone followed suit in majestic layers of awesomeness. The finish was a gorgeous, complex interplay of sweet and savory that lingered on forever. And so you definitely don't get experiences like that with vintage champagne on release. That's something that only comes with age. The best way to describe it is that with age, champagne can become more like a white Burgundy. And so if you like aged white Burgundy, there's a good chance you'd like aged champagne as well. For those interested in tasting older wines, the good news is that many red and white wines are often less expensive for older vintages than they are for current releases. Take Bordeaux, for example. There's many vintages from the 1990s that are far more affordable and less expensive than current releases. So you have an excellent opportunity to what they call backfill or buy older vintages in the secondary market now so that you can give those wines a try. My recommendation, however, would be to not just drink those wines in isolation by yourself at your house, but to rather get a tasting group of 6 or 7 or 8 friends and all get together and taste wines around a theme where you each contribute a bottle. That way you'll be able to have a tasting where you try 5, 6, 7, 8 wines in one night, all around a particular theme, and you can compare and contrast your likes and dislikes. And in this way, you'll learn a lot more than if you just taste one wine in isolation one night and then taste another wine in isolation a couple weeks later. With champagne, the very best way to enjoy aged champagne is to buy it on release and then let it age. Unlike red and white wine, aged champagne tends to be more expensive than champagne on release. So I would recommend, if there's a certain producer that you enjoy, you start buying it in quantity on release and then make sure that you set some aside so that you don't drink through your entire stash too soon. In the meantime, of course, you can seek out opportunities to try aged champagnes either on restaurant wine lists or by buying some in the secondary market or by tasting with your friends, things of that nature. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. Until then, drink well.